from Studio 1A in Snowflake Village. You're listening to Pod Bless Kentucky.
All right, welcome back to the show. Here we are again this week. And once again, I'd like to thank everybody for listening to us. We are a ragtag bunch sitting around drinking and talking politics. I'd like to welcome Dana.
Hello.
Okay, and Sunny is back.
Hi.
All right, so here we are. And so it's been a little while since we've got our show out again.
Our shit together.
Yeah, got our shit together. So glad to be back. So what are some of the things we're going to talk about today? We're going to talk about the repeal of the ACA and the attempted repeal of the ACA. It has not happened yet. We can hope
We'll get to it.
the Senate actually does its job.
They'll get
Okay, we're also going to talk about some of the other things that have happened in the last week and a half. We're going to talk about the Secretary of Education's nice little commencement speech at Bethune-Cookman College. We're going to talk about probably the biggest news that's happened in a little while with Donald Trump, our wonderful president, deciding that he is going to fire the FBI director, James Comey.
Who's investigating him.
Yeah, for...
I love how Dana just sits there shaking
I
her
know.
head.
Well,
I mean,
it's the Etch-a-Sketch moment.
every week you can't. I mean, as you say, you can't make this shit up.
Exactly. We're also going to talk about Sally Yates and her...
I
her
have a
meeting.
total girl crush on Sally Yates, BT Dubs.
Okay. So we have a lot to talk about today. Well, what's the first thing we're going to talk about? We came up with an idea of...
We have a new system for rating the different shit things that are happening. We used to go in chronological order. I kind of decided that was lame. And between Dana and I, we worked out a vodka shot scale.
A Russian.
A Russian
Oh,
vodka.
Russian vodka.
None of that US.
Get out the Stoli.
Get out the Stoli.
Okay, so what is, I guess, on our lowest scale, what is the least impact, and probably won't be so hard on our livers?
So the scale goes from, it's on a scale of from I need one shot of vodka to chase this shit down to fuck it, just hand me the whole bottle, right? So, for one shot, we have our delusionist, Trump, who thinks that he invented the phrase, priming the pump. And this is the exact quotes. This he did an interview with The Economist. So, here we go. Trump says, we have to prime the pump. And The Economist says, that's very Keynesian. Trump says, we are the highest taxed nation in the world. Have you
Which
heard?
is not true.
It isn't true.
No, not in the slightest.
No. Delusional. Back up there again. We're the highest the highest taxed nation in the world. Have you heard that expression before for this particular type of event? And The Economist interviewer says, priming the pump? And Trump says, yeah, have you heard of it? And The Economist, which I'm sure he had this dumb blank stare on his face, was like, yeah. Trump says, have you heard that expression used before? Because I haven't heard it. I mean, I just came up with it a couple of days ago, and I thought it was good. It's what you have to do.
It just popped into his head.
It just popped into his head.
And
And
everything
Miriam-
he has to take ownership. It's going to have a Trump trademark on it.
But, even prime the pump. I can remember being very little, and not even in an economic kind of way, and we had one of those pumps that you still had to use, for the hand pumps for water. And my grandfather would say, you have to prime the pump first, which meant you pushed the pump up and down before it would start. Right?
Right.
So, Mr. Economist, what is the economy version of that?
Well, the Keynesian idea that you have to give into something, that you have to give it a little bit to create something larger. And that's what he's kind of given this idea.
Kind of like you have to spend money to make money?
Exactly. Okay. But I think that's his way of trying to get the little things that he wants specifically for the military, yet it's not real. In his delusional mind that it's going to help the economy as a
I'm
whole.
honestly starting to believe that he may have a mild form of dementia.
Oh yeah. I
I
mean,
mean-
he can't remember from one day to the next sometimes what he said, and maybe that's a perpetual liar. I don't know.
But how do you think that's not an uncommon phrase? I mean,
No, it's not.
No, I mean we've all heard that at least once in our lives, if not way more than that. You
in
know,
one form or another.
Right,
I mean,
right.
and it all basically means the same. To give it a little push, and then it'll just.
right?
Right. Yes. Not Trump.
No.
It's actually so Merriam-Webster. If you follow Twitter, even Merriam-Webster's the Twitter account there, they're funny, and even they trolled him. They reminded him that that's actually been in use since 1933
As an economic term, correct?
as an economic term. That's not as like that old
Right.
hand pump thing. I'm sure it was before then even.
just being asked to have been.
Now I just want you guys to let this sink in for a minute. This is the man who is in charge of our nuclear arsenal.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
I'm ready for a shot.
That's that shot it is.
Salute. So, okay.
Next on the 2 shots.
Okay, so we get 2 shots.
We're going to give 2 shots, but we're actually going to give them to Sean Spicer.
Oh, good Lord.
Oh, man.
Sean Spicer needs 2 shots.
Okay.
He
What has
needs
Sean,
way more
what
than
has Sean done this week?
He probably does need the whole
So,
bottle.
well,
Yeah.
Sean
But-
has done a lot this week.
Wow.
I mean,
Poor Sean.
yeah, he's had a rough time.
You know, you have to have some sympathy for the guy.
I do. I
do
I
too.
really do. I really feel bad for him, and at the same time, I'm like, dude, just tell the truth. Stop trying to cover up and figure out what this idiot is saying. Just say it. Don't. But anyway, so let's talk about what happened. So the news breaks that Trump fires Comey, right? And that was on Tuesday night. And Sean Spicer, at the time, was giving a brief interview to the Fox Business News. And he was on the White House grounds, and even Fox News is throwing him under the bus by saying, yeah, he disappeared. The Washington Post reporter, and I quote, says he disappeared into the shadows and huddled with his staff. And this is where everybody has to be corrected, because according to the Washington Post, he hid in the bushes.
Among the bushes.
No, hold on. According to Washington Post, he
Okay.
hid in the bushes.
Okay.
Sean Spicer corrected that because I guess he wasn't hiding in the bushes. He was hiding among
the
the
bushes.
bushes. All right, in our next little bit, we're going to give the passage of the AHCA only 3 shots.
Only 3?
Only 3 shots, because the Senate is already writing their own bill, right? So you know that the AHCA that the House has proposed and passed isn't going to pass the Senate if the Senate's already working on their own and is saying that that's not a good enough.
But wait, according to this clip right here, I mean, you've got to hear what Donald Trump has to say.
And thanks to the leadership
Oh, that-
of President Donald Trump, welcome to the
God,
beginning
this makes
of
me
the
nauseous.
end of Obamacare.
Oh, man, Mike Pence. Oh, Mike Pence.
The only thing worse than that is smug-ass Paul Ryan in the background when you watch the clip.
Oh, yeah, and he's sitting there smiling, clapping, and just, like, he has just won the golden ticket, is what he believes.
So do they have to, if the Senate then therefore writes their own bill,
Then
and
it has to go
it has to go back, correct?
And
Yep.
it goes, yeah.
But it's almost like you're waiting for your big brother to tell you what you really have to do, and then you have to agree with him when he's
Right.
done. You know?
Well, and it's like a race to be the biggest asshole.
So, so here's Big Brother.
Mm.
And
And this is a great plan. I actually think it will get even better. And this is make
So
no
he knows
mistake,
it's
this
not
is
even
a
gonna go through.
repeal and a replace of Obamacare. Make no mistake about it. Make no mistake.
about 17% of people are okay with that, right? Wasn't that the number?
yeah,
Yeah,
that's about it.
Yeah, only 17% are okay with it. Like, the rest of the country, it was like 79. I don't know which one. I suck at math. So, what I read was like 79% of Americans across the board. It didn't matter if they were Republicans or liberals or whatever. They want to keep the ACA. And yet we have McConnell and Barr and the rest of these asswipes that are just like, I'm going to do this. And I'm going to keep my premium health care, and you taxpayers are going to pay for it.
Right. And as you could see, locally, Andy Barr had a discussion with a group from UK. He spoke with the medical...
The Lexington Medical Society.
The Lexington Medical Society. And he had a nice, warm welcome.
He did have a nice, warm welcome. About 200 protesting. Nice,
Standing
warm
outside
welcome.
with a lot of signs and screaming that they will remember in November.
I don't even want to remember in November. I want them to just stop voting on it. Just stop.
Well, what's really curious is why he was speaking where he was, because large universities and healthcare systems have largely benefited from the ACA.
Mm-hmm.
So it's curious as to why
he chose that group to speak to.
I mean, granted, I think Andy Barr will talk to anybody except for his constituents that don't like him
But the funny
or that pays him.
I would
Right.
say, so that's the difference, because I happen to know that there were at least 10 doctors on the inside of that building that were very much against the repeal of the ACA, because they're specialists mostly, and the specialists know that, you know, you repeal the ACA and suddenly this large group of people, they're not going to have the money, and they're not
setting
the
up
insurance.
doctors' visits. They're setting up emergency care. They're showing up
Right,
in the
so
hospital.
it's going to be an emergency care kind of thing, and they know that they're never going to get that pay from there.
Well,
Even if it's a reduced pay that comes through on the ACA, which is what I understand, it's better than their hospital shutting down or their specialty.
well, and
not
they
making
care
the bills.
about their patients. You've got
Right.
people who are getting care now for the first time in their entire lives.
Right.
It's not always about money.
Right, and I do believe that. I think that most physicians are largely there for the greater good, and
No, I agree.
if the ACA is repealed, you're going to have a whole lot of people dying, but that's what they're banking on. You know, premiums go down because in some instances, not most, but because people are going to die. The pool
But I
is
thought the
going
bigger
away.
the pool, the less the insurance rate.
Well, they're counting on healthy people. Healthy people make the pool better. You know, I mean,
Right.
But if there's only 50 healthy people and 100 unhealthy people who can't afford the higher insurance, then
think-
that screws you.
but
correct?
think about all of us who have pre-existing conditions that don't qualify to be part of that pool.
Do any of us in this room qualify?
No.
No, we're all pre-conditioned,
We're all
yeah.
Well, that's the whole thing, is that they keep telling you if you've got what you've got now, right, but you're going to change a job, or you're going to lose your insurance for a while because maybe you were unemployed, or, you know, and when you go to get insurance, it's going to be a problem.
Right,
Yeah,
it won't be there.
Statistics show that you do not remain in your same company job. Like,
Right.
you
What is it, on the average of every 7 years or 5
5 to
years?
7
Usually
years.
5 to 7 years, you
That's what I was
change
saying.
Jobs.
go to a different position or a different profession.
Well, and if I read correctly, if you look at the numbers, economically, who benefits from this is the top 2%
Yeah.
out of
Well,
everything.
because they get the bigger tax cuts.
Right, and the people on the low end of the totem pole are going to see increases. You know, what bothers me about this most of all is that people are underneath the delusion that if this gets repealed and replaced, that suddenly everything's going to go back to the way it was prior to the ACA. Why would a health insurance company that knows they can charge you X, Y, Z, and now knows you have pre-existing conditions? Why would they?
No, they're not going to.
They're not going. It's a fallacy that it's magically going to be like it was, you know,
Right.
7 or 8 years ago.
It's like the whole Trump campaign promises are just one fallacy after another. You have suddenly the insurance companies are going to fall in line, and you're going to have cheaper insurance. Bullshit. Suddenly you're going to, all of these companies that are overseas are going to come back to the United States and start producing this stuff. Bullshit. Somebody's going to start pulling coal out of the coal mines,
Out of the ground.
and it's going to be cheaper than what we're already getting for natural gas, sun, and wind power. Bullshit. I mean, like,
So it's going to catch up with him soon.
Well, I mean, you wonder. I mean, historically, there haven't been very many presidents who weren't elected to a second term. You know, so it
But
seems
not many presidents were under investigation.
from the very beginning. This is very true too.
from before the beginning.
right, right.
I mean, like, that's, at least that's the rumor.
So what do you
Careful.
what do you think? I've been trying to figure out what is the Republican Party doing here in regards to him. You know, do you think that they're waiting there for it all to implode so they can go, not my problem? Or, you know, do you think that they're going to ride the wave as long as they can?
Well, right now they're having a firehouse sale. Basically, they know the place is on fire, but it hasn't gotten to the totally engulfed. So let's sell everything off and try and get everything we can before the whole place fucking burns down. So they're seeing the writing on the wall.
I wonder, you know, yeah, they can, because Trump is such an idiot, they can push everything through that they want, because we're all so freaked out and distracted by him signing executive order after executive order, or saber rattling with Korea or whatever. But also, there's also that theory that the Republicans know that they are so screwed that they are not going to get reelected, that they don't care, and they're just going to do everything in their power to reverse everything that Obama did.
Now, the good thing is the Senate is a little more calm and cool collective.
Yeah.
Because they're in there longer. They see that, hey, if the place is actually burning down, they gotta stick around till the end.
Well, there's only 100 of them, and they know each other better, and they are a lot more moderate in general than the House is.
Mitch McConnell is moderate.
Right. And
Mitch McConnell doesn't count. Well, okay, there are 99 other senators.
yeah, true.
I just checking on
But
that.
they also have the luxury of not having to campaign every 2 years
Right.
to keep their position.
Well, that's what I'm wondering about. So you've got, the way I see it, I mean, and I'm obviously one person with one opinion, and, you know, doesn't really mean much in the grand scheme of things, but they've got two choices. They can either back him and let it ride and hope that this doesn't all fall apart around them and keep it going, or they can distance themselves now so when the 2018 elections come, they can go, not my prob, you know?
Right.
So what do you do? I mean, because if they let it ride, it could blow up in their faces. Because if it waits and takes, these are not quick procedural things, you know, in terms of, you know, maybe or maybe not being impeached, you know, maybe or maybe not, you know, all of these investigations take time.
Oh, he's got to go. My hair is falling out. I am going to be bald if he is not gone soon.
Well, I mean, it like Dana said, it does take time to get these proceedings through.
26 months for Nixon. And all that were those little tapes. Just one little set of tapes. That was it. 26 months. And how much
And there might be
possible shit-
tapes. There might be tapes involved in the White House now.
Okay.
Okay,
true.
so I read this somewhere. I don't have the quote for it. I can go back and look for the source for it, but somebody, I think it was Washington Post, said that at one point in time they were doing an interview with Trump in Trump Tower, and there were two reporters, right? And it was just them and Trump in the room, and Trump says, "So, would you guys like something to drink?" And the guys are like, "Yeah." I assume they're guys, my bad, but the guys are like, "Yeah, we'd love a drink." And Trump simply says, "Yeah, I think 2 waters and a Coke would be great." And out of nowhere, the little butler guy comes in and hands them 2 waters and a Coke.
So someone's listening in.
So that's how
on
he
every
knew.
conversation.
So that's so these reporters on the Washington Post are saying that's how Trump knows that it's being recorded.
So there's a lot going on, and we hear that, like, he put out that tweet the other day that Comey
We'll get to that.
better not speak because
We'll get to that.
because there better not be tapes, or there might be tapes.
You know there's tapes.
So
let's go on. So we're going to say now this one is the first big. Hand me my first This week it's more than one bottle of vodka.
Oh,
we
wow.
we go
We're
from
going to be dead.
we go from 3 shots to an entire bottle because Trump really did indeed fire FBI Director Comey. And of course, they immediately started giving excuses why he was fired. 1, Rosenstein recommended that Comey was fired. 2, Trump said Comey wasn't doing a good job. 3, Sarah Huckabee Sanders said that the real reason
Now,
for
who's her
Comey-
dad?
Mike Huckabee.
Oh,
I wonder
wow.
how she got that job.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, the fact that she decided to keep Huckabee in her name says a lot.
Well, let's
a
hear what
really
she
smart
had
move.
to say.
All
The
right.
president's encouraged this investigation to take place and complete so that we can move forward. We've been as compliant as possible throughout the entire process. We will continue to do so. Nobody wants this investigation to go forward and
I do.
complete and end with integrity more than the president.
Oh, so
There's
Donnie,
one thing you said, that the president has encouraged this investigation into Russia.
It
He
gets
wants
better, guys.
To
Keep
see
listening.
it reach its completion sooner rather than later. How has he encouraged it if he just fired the man who was overseeing the Russia investigation?
There are
Listen
multiple
for it.
people that are part of this, and it's not just the FBI. You've got the House committee, the Senate committee. Look, again, the point is we want this to come to its conclusion. We want it to come to its conclusion with integrity, and we think that we've actually, by removing Director Comey, taken steps to make that happen.
Halt.
okay, so, I mean,
So did you hear that? I want to make this startlingly clear. I wrote down the quote. We want this to come to its conclusion. We want it to come to its conclusion with integrity, and we think that we've actually, by removing Director Comey, taken steps to make that happen.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Donald Trump praised Comey before he was elected in everything that was happening with Hillary Clinton's emails and the letter that he issued that essentially was the nail in her coffin
of
for her
course.
campaign, correct?
Right.
Okay.
So Twitter
Then
rumor-
January 3rd came around.
Right.
And there's actually a Twitter rumor flying around that
Okay, so, I mean, January 3rd came, and he sat down with Comey, supposedly, and asked him about his loyalty to the Trump presidency.
Right. He wanted his fealty sworn, basically, correct?
Right. So, I mean, you can create your loyalty to a country, to democracy, but Donnie wanted it to him.
Donnie wanted it to him, and in this particular case, Comey did the right thing again, and said, you know, I pledge my loyalty to the Constitution and to this country, but not to you.
Right. I mean, and don't get me wrong. During the election, I mean, the Democrats wanted Comey's head on a platter
So,
because
and-
of what happened.
And that's where I really think this Twitter rumor is that Comey wears a white hat. We all thought that he wore, you know, he was in line
That
with
he was
Trump.
the dastardly duo or the dastardly
Right. So the
guy that.
the rumor with, especially with Hillary's emails, is that he did not actually mean for it to go public. Again, somebody in the FBI grabbed that letter, who may very well be in bed with Trump and Putin, grabbed that letter and published it.
Now, one of the interesting things that many have said, oh well, with the Senate investigation committee and the House investigation committee, that there's enough people looking into this to be able to settle it. However, when they actually speak to those investigating committees, they're like, we don't have the resources and the manpower to really dig deep, and they need the FBI. So
Well, and supposedly also Comey, that was another one of the backhanded reasons that has come out, not that was given by Trump or any of his people, but that Comey had previously, like within that week or the prior week, had actually asked for a couple million in resources so that they could pursue the investigation
Right.
because it was gaining ground, speeding up, and they needed those resources. Right?
Yes.
yeah. So I mean, it's very interesting. I mean, we're sure we're not done with the whole James Comey investigation.
No.
No.
No, and most of the
Excuse
things.
me.
So most of the things that the Trump campaign has come up with, well, not campaign, administration.
Yeah, it's now an
I know,
administration.
I hate-
As
it's
much as
so
we wish it
hard.
was just still a campaign.
So, like, they tried to throw this Rosenstein underneath the bus, and Rosenstein said, no, I did not actually recommend that. Trump tried to say that Comey wasn't doing a good job and that all of the FBI had lost faith in him. And
Then Rosenstein said, wait, the FBI...
it wasn't Rosenstein. Was it McCabe?
McCabe.
McCabe said, no, in fact, we really miss him and we'd like him back, kind of thing.
From what I understand, he's well liked.
He was, that's what, we all thought, and I will take the hit on this. As a liberal, I really believed that Comey was not being a good guy. I thought he was, he purposely and maliciously let that letter drop right before the election. But listening to his testimony, and, I love to read people. It happens to be one of my favorite things in the whole world. And you watch his mannerisms and you watch his eyes, and I don't think
He seems
really,
truthful.
He does. I mean, he seems like he's being honest. And if he can, he's going to rectify things.
Well, that's one thing that we're being hit with now, too, is that, back in October, beginning of November, y'all wanted his head on a platter. That
I don't think we realize the extent of leaking.
I don't either. I think that it influenced things, and maybe it shouldn't have happened, but that they're two separate issues,
And I think, and one of the other things we all noticed was the French presidential election.
Yes.
The same thing happened. It was that ginormous email drop where all of a sudden this guy's emails are out in the universe, and luckily, from what I understand, they actually anticipated it and had, they had the bulk of it covered, and it all was fine. It didn't do anything, but
Well,
we weren't.
I will say that overall the French are a little
Smarter.
No, I wasn't going to say smart. I was going to say they're not as quick to react, and they're much more willing to go, and blow it off. They're not, they've always taken things with a much bigger grain of salt than we have here in the U.S.
We don't play with salt. We don't like salt.
Apparently not. Apparently we like things boring
like
and
to
bland.
Burn shit down.
All right. Well, taking a break and having a sober moment, we're gonna
gonna
talk
drink
about
our
something
beer now.
that's going to actually be coming up through the Kentucky Coalition of different organizations, and that is the May joint meeting on May 28th, and there's going to be some guest speakers. Who all is going to be speaking at that event? I know that our new executive director of the Democratic Party here in Kentucky,
Mary Nishimura.
yeah, Mary Nishimura will be speaking. We'll also have
Senator Reggie Thomas is going to speak.
and that could be a big thing because he's actually
he's
Just
gonna
go ahead.
he's
Go ahead,
considering the idea of running against Andy Barr. So he'll have a lot of cool things to say.
He's been at several events that I have been at, and he is a lovely man. And
He is.
He is.
He's charismatic. He cares, and it's
he does.
obvious he cares.
he very much cares. And I mean, I would love to see him run.
I would. Oh,
And then
so
we
happy.
We're also going to have Shannon Stewart Smith.
she's going to be doing the Walk the Talk information. If you're not familiar with Walk the Talk, basically it is where a group of folks have come together to ask questions about why we vote and how we vote, and may give us some influence of what we're looking for when it comes to the 2018 election.
Well, what they're doing is they get this group of people together, and they find out what your district, your little area is, and they give you the information. It's not a poll, like a poll. They give that to you. You go out door to door, and you talk to
your neighbors.
You
Imagine
talk to your
that.
neighbors,
Right.
and you find out what's important to them.
Yeah, so we can find candidates that really mean something. I know that there's a lot of issues coming up, and we want to have a candidate that will address the issues. Imagine that, because I'm sure Andy Barr will not address these issues.
Well, they've also shown that when people are contacted individually, they're much more likely to get out and vote. So,
Yeah, because they feel like they have,
yes.
they've had a say
right.
in what their candidate wants.
And we're also
Or what
doing
their
this
candidate
early
needs to do.
enough that if you're interested in running for a position, they'll give you the information on how to become some type of, not exactly a politician, but someone who wants to make a change in their community. And then we have a great speaker
I'm excited.
that was kind of a secret for a little while, and now I guess we could announce who it is.
Celis Wilder from the Commonwealth Alliance is going to be there.
I mean, he has had some great things that he's put out on the web with his commentary, and believe me, I would love to get him for this show.
Wouldn't
that
that
would
be awesome?
That would be a highlight of the show. So, I mean, this is all happening on May 28th. It's the coalition between Together We Will, Indivisible Bluegrass, the
Kentucky Now.
Kentucky Now with the National Organization of Women, and Our Generation.
No,
Our Revolution.
Our Revolution. I always keep forgetting. Man.
But it's Our Revolution, Central Kentucky, and then also thrown in there is
Together Frankfurt. Yeah.
Oh, Together Frankfurt's part of this, too.
Together
Oh.
Yes.
Frankfurt is coming in also. I think as soon as people started hearing about this open meeting, this coalition meeting, and the speakers, I think that we're going to make an impact. We're going to make a difference.
Right.
I'm excited about that.
So if you're listening to this and definitely want to go, make sure that you RSVP through the organization that you may belong to, and we'd love to have you out because it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be at the currently, unless numbers get too large, we're going to be at the Universalist Unitarian Church that's on Clays Mill Road.
From 2 to 4 p.m.
Alrighty.
And even if you don't belong to one of those organizations, go ahead and look them up on Facebook, or I think some of them have websites. Look those up and send us a note, and I'm sure that we're not going to turn anybody away.
Oh no,
No.
we're a very welcoming bunch. Again,
Unless you're Andy Barr.
yeah.
There's also going to be other local organizations there giving out information. There's going to be an hour to socialize and try to connect.
Now, what organizations are those? Those are Together We Will,
Together We Will, Bluegrass.
Indivisible
Bluegrass. Our Revolution, Central Kentucky, Together Frankfurt, and Kentucky Now.
All right. So,
Got it?
all right. Now, pass the bottle. We'll get back on track. So, what do we have?
We have our second bottle.
Oh, we're on our second bottle now.
We're going on to our
Oh.
second bottle. Oh,
Feeling a
one
little
thing
tipsy.
before we go on to our second bottle, one thing I do want to add is that very recently, yesterday or today, it came out that Comey is absolutely willing to come back and testify again as a private citizen, because now that he's fired, he is a private citizen. However, instead of doing so in private and just the small group, he is insistent. He actually turned down the invitation to do it in private, and he wants to come and speak in public.
Wow,
Listen
that's something to
here.
watch.
I'm kind of excited. Get my
Okay.
popcorn out. All right, and going on, we have hand me that second bottle of vodka.
God, we're going to be drunk.
All right, we're moving on to the Grey
Wait a
Goose.
minute.
We're getting to the good stuff now.
Is Grey Goose Russian?
No, that's French.
vodka?
French.
Oh, that's true. That's French.
French.
Okay.
We've got what
Oh.
else? There's Stoli and Smirnoff.
Smirnoff. Oh,
Okay.
I was gonna
Smirnoff.
say,
Well, wait.
we're going to be drunker than a frat
Believe
party.
me, I think we're
An
How you
entire
doing?
fraternity.
yeah. How are you doing?
How you doing?
Listen.
Okay, serious.
All right.
So this was actually the biggest underreported Trump-Russia investigatory kind of story out there.
With everything that's going on,
with
we didn't hear about this.
We didn't, because the language behind, so they brought in a panel of 3 FBI agents. Please forgive me, I only paid attention to Mr. Clinton Watts. He is actually a former FBI agent, and he makes the most damning case against Trump.
Okay. So, all right. So let's listen to Mr. Watts and see what he had to say.
I think this answer is very simple and is what no one is really saying in this room, which is part of the reason active measures have worked in this U.S. election is because the commander-in-chief has used Russian active measures at time against his opponents. On 14 August 2016, his campaign chairman, after a debunked Incirlik...
When you say his, who's his?
Paul Manafort,
Okay.
cited the fake Incirlik story as a terrorist attack on CNN, and he used it
So
as a
this is when
talking
they're talking
point.
about fake news.
On 11 October, President Trump stood on a stage and cited what appears to be a fake news story from Sputnik News that disappeared from the internet. He denies the intel from the United States about Russia. He claimed that the election could be rigged. That was the #1 theme pushed by RT, Sputnik News, white outlets all the way up until the election. He's made claims of voter fraud, that President Obama is not a citizen, that, Congressman Cruz is not a citizen. So part of the reason active measures works, and it does today in terms of Trump Tower being wiretapped, is because they parrot the same lines. So Putin is correct. He can say that he's not influencing anything because he's just putting out his stance. But until we get a firm basis on fact and fiction in our own country, get some agreement about the facts, whether it be do I support the intelligence community or a story I read on my Twitter feed, we're going to have a big problem. I can tell you right now today, gray outlets that are Soviet-pushing accounts tweet at President Trump during high volumes when they know he's online, and they push conspiracy theories.
I mean, think about this. Haven't we always told, everyone, don't believe everything you hear or read on the internet? Because you never know. I mean, the internet is a giant Wikipedia.
Well, they've also proven that the algorithms change what you see based on,
who you follow.
On who you follow. Just the other day, for example, I put a post on Facebook myself, and it changed. I had tagged several people, and if you looked at my feed, it showed one person's name first. If you looked at a relative of mine's feed, it changed that person's name to somebody else that I had tagged that, and I thought, well, that's really interesting because shouldn't it be...
It changed the tag order.
Yes, it changed the tag order, and I thought, that's really interesting. Shouldn't it be the way the order I tagged them in? Shouldn't
you would
it?
think.
But it's switching things around, and I thought, I wonder why. But we're constantly hearing now, especially on Twitter, that there are all of these bots and everything else that, tweet to push things. And it changes the order you see things. It changes what you see. And he's going to believe Trump is paranoid.
And you have to be able to check your sources.
Exactly.
I mean, believe me, as I said in the very beginning of the show, we are just the three of us are just normal folks sitting around drinking beer and enjoying politics and talking about what we've heard. Now, do not go out there and say, well, I heard on Pod Bless Kentucky.
And that's another reason I am very quick to say Twitter rumor.
Yeah,
or a rumor, or unless it comes from and I hate to say that the people on Twitter are not necessarily verifiable, because sometimes if you click on their blog or their article, absolutely it will go back to a very verifiable source, like a .gov or something like that, and that's good.
But Tom is very, very, very correct. Anything we say is just our opinion.
You're right.
Right. We're not an authority on anything. And believe me, there are a lot of news outlets that are out there that are very trusted and have been there. But you also need to check.
But they still can make mistakes.
They can make mistakes.
Absolutely.
I mean, we live in a world where we want information now.
And nanoseconds ago.
And when that happens, a lot of times mistakes happen.
But let's talk about, what Clinton Watts is saying, however, is not just the spreading of the fake news. It is the way in which the propaganda has been spread, and it's also, if you listen to him, it's the way the propaganda has been ingested. It isn't just your average, regular, oh, hey, look, when I'm walking through the grocery store and I see the Inquirer sitting there. That isn't, most of us have known since we were toddlers, walk past the Inquirer, it's just silliness.
It's just a rag. And, I mean, I look at it, if you remember back right after the presidency was sworn in, how many daily briefings did he take from the intelligence community?
Even before that. He wasn't taking them even before that because he said, I'm getting everything I need. I know everything I need to know.
And that means he was getting his information from these news outlets that are not reputable and coming out of Russia, because it's that whole clickbait mentality.
Well, rumors not fact. And I have to be really honest, it scares the shit out of me because it makes me think, I mean, go back in history a little bit. Where were we 70 years ago when propaganda was fact?
Yeah.
We were in Nazi Germany, and everybody there believed exactly what was put out. It's like when Trump this past week had the meeting with the Russian in the Oval Office.
Oh, yeah.
And I hope they sweat for bugs when he left.
Fumigated.
Yeah. But, I mean, he did that, and then the only news source there was a Russian state news source. It was not a free press.
And these are the same people who put Putin as an actor when Ronald Reagan went through. When Ronald Reagan went into Moscow, he actually went around and shook people's hands and he was supposed to be meeting a family within the Soviet Union at the time in Moscow. However, that person was Vladimir Putin. He was a KGB officer who was assigned to act like a normal citizen. So, I mean, the Russians are not someone you want, like, hey, let's...
Why are we acting like this is... I mean, why is Trump acting like being, comrades with Russia is a good idea? I mean, every other president has had a very...
Oh, I love the picture of Obama and Putin because you can see the tension. You can see I don't like you and you don't like me, and let's make this an understanding, and you just...
We're not a happy family.
Well, he likes the idea of dictators.
Lane,
he likes the mentality, the authoritarianism of these dictators throughout the world. However, that doesn't work here. And that's something they have to acknowledge, and he needs to get it in his head that this is not the United States of America. This is not something that you put out there and kind of I guess what's the word, where you basically emulate that idea in our society.
Well, I mean, I can't help but think that anybody who grew up during the Cold War would... Why are they not outraged by this? Why aren't they screaming? I mean, granted, we tore down the wall and all that other stuff, but we're reaching a point that I'm not asking anybody to be frightened, but I am asking people to think, think about why are we doing this?
So this is something I've had to explain to, in my mind at least, to a lot of people. I've had to go back and say, okay, listen, when you have this propaganda being spit at you at lightning speed, and when you have all of this, you have somebody who is in command. You have the next president of the United States. You have even at the time when he was just the Republican nominee, you have him swallowing all of this propaganda and convincing you and me and everybody else, even though not us exactly. But you have them convinced that what's coming out of his mouth is the truth. And really... he does have an absolute fascination with dictators and this authoritarian government. So for him, the propaganda was just one step at getting that authoritarian rule.
Right.
I mean, to him, nobody needs to know anything else because he's the CEO of this company.
Of the United States.
And the only person you need to listen to is the CEO of this company.
Right.
And so whatever he says is correct.
Well,
and when you hear
playing
that
devil's
propaganda
advocate,
over and over again, that's a brainwash.
Playing devil's advocate on the other side, that you have to look at if the way they see that the Democratic Party, they've made their mistakes as well, and they've done some
Absolutely.
things that have been underhandedly. I mean, the whole Hillary's emails things and the Podesta letter. I mean, those do not shine a pretty light on on the left.
Okay, Hillary's emails or propaganda and brainwashing.
But they're saying Donald Trump came upon the country at a time of when there was a lot of distrust.
Okay. Kind of like Hitler.
And so, I mean, there are many people looking for a leader who is trustworthy. Now, do we think we don't believe that Donald Trump, and it's coming out more and more of how much we can actually trust him. There's rumors everywhere. So, I mean, it says something for our society. We need to find good leaders that are trustworthy, that are going to work in the benefit of us, not their own special interest.
Well, yeah, and we need to maybe tighten up some of the ethics that rule the presidential office too, because you're not supposed to have your children working with you there. You're not supposed to have, your close confidants and everything taking jobs in the White House for a reason. Because, I mean, the most corrupt nations in the world do that. They've shown that nepotism creates corrupt, administrations.
Kleptocracy.
And I mean, they tried very hard to say, okay, that his children grew up in the business world and are qualified, which which is difficult because that's kind of, I mean,
the United States is not a business.
No.
And I'm tired of people saying we need a businessman there, we need somebody who understands the numbers. And I'm not saying that business doesn't play into it. We are, to some extent, the way we export and import things, we are a business.
Our economy
is a business.
It.
Yes. But
we needed a public servant.
Exactly. We are people. We are we want to say we're a democracy or a democratic republic, depending on how you look at it.
Actually, we've been downgraded.
Yeah, I was going to say we're not a broken democracy yet, except for North Carolina.
Flawed.
We're a flawed democracy. I believe
flawed.
North Carolina is listed as a broken democracy. If you look at it,
Google.
But we are a flawed democracy, and but the part of that is that's people. You can't treat us like we are nameless, faceless, like we're just numbers. And that's what CEOs do. We saw it happen to medicine. Medicine has been turned into a business. Education is being turned into a business. And all these things that are being turned into a business.
And business decisions are being made.
Right. I
So,
mean,
it's kind of scary.
it's very, very scary.
Yes. North Carolina is a broken democracy.
Okay. Well, I
to know.
think we need to bring things back and kind of chill out on the vodka a little bit and start drinking a little bit more beer. So, going into beer is always good. What is the good news that
Do
has
you
been
realize you
happening?
just said going into the beer?
Yeah, going
beer?
into the... Believe me, you can never have enough beer.
I agree. Tonight, our first bit of good news.
We have good news?
Our good news.
Woohoo!
Woohoo!
Don't you have a clip
Okay,
for that?
yeah, we do have some good news. It involved Sally Yates, the former...
No.
By the express text of the statute, it says, quote,
I love
whenever the
Oh.
president finds that the entry of any alien or of any class of aliens into
This
the
is
United
Ted
States
Cruz speaking, by the way.
would be detrimental to the interests of the United States, he may, by proclamation and for such period as he shall deem necessary, suspend the entry of all aliens or any class of aliens as immigrants or non-immigrants, or impose on the entry of aliens any restrictions he may deem appropriate. Would you agree that that is broad statutory authorization?
I would, and I am familiar with that, and I'm also familiar with an additional provision of the INA that says no person shall receive preference or be discriminated against in issuance of a visa because of race, nationality, or place of birth. That, I believe, was promulgated after the statute that you just quoted, and that's been part of the discussion with the courts with respect to the INA, is whether this more specific statute trumps the first one that you just described. But my concern was not an INA concern here. It rather was a constitutional concern.
All right.
Hey, I have to say, yay. And I have to say,
I mean,
I have to say, as a native-born Texan, fuck Ted Cruz.
I mean, man, that's called doing your homework. I mean, it's like trying to fit into the old ideas and then
It's
saying,
not even
oh, wait,
doing
this
your
can change it."
homework. I mean, if you are going to quote a law to somebody who is a practicing attorney, had been a practicing attorney, she's attorney general, for God's sakes, she was the replacement for the United States Attorney General, right? She was the acting deputy attorney general. So if you are going to quote a law at someone, man, woman, whatever, don't you think you should have researched the entire law if you are not a practicing attorney and you haven't been a practicing attorney for I don't know how long? I don't even know what Ted Cruz did in his previous life.
Hell if I know.
He was an actual attorney.
Well, was he a constitutional law attorney?
He was pursuing that, yes.
Pursuing.
That's like when somebody...
Before he became a politician.
Well, that's like when someone reads a quote from the Bible and takes from it what they want and then forgets to read the second or third voice, the first after that. Yeah.
Right. So it's not something you should do. It's not a smart move. And that was by far the most epic slapdown I think I've ever seen. I don't even remember if Ted Cruz could even say anything or if he had to change subjects. It doesn't matter. Nothing beyond that point mattered. She took him, she went for the layup, and she jammed it on the top of his head, and it was
she went for the slam dunk
beautiful.
And just took him in. I mean, she even actually talked to Senator Cornyn, who...
Oh, she slapped him down, too.
Yeah,
I don't have a quote of that, but
yeah.
she took him out, too.
I mean, she used his own words against him. And during her confirmation hearing, she was asked by Senator Cornyn if she had loyalty, if she had the guts to talk to President Obama and tell him he was wrong if he tried to pass a bill through the as an executive order, if she would be able to stand up to him.
Obama or Trump?
Obama, because Obama was the actual one who put her into place. And
okay.
And she said, "Why, yes, if it's wrong, I'm for the country. It's not about the president."
It is not a political statement. It is it's not a political or policy statement. It's a constitutional issues.
Well,
correct.
And apparently she's much smarter than politicians from Texas. Between Cornyn and Cruz.
And it kind of makes me wonder why, with women like her, and there's got to be men out there that are equally as smart, why the hell do we have these people like Barr and McConnell and, for goodness gracious sakes, Ted Cruz? Why are they in these
or
offices?
Matt Bevin.
Fuck Matt Bevin.
I mean, and they've done countless research on this. It comes down to very few actually core things. And the first one starts with an A and ends with an N. Abortion.
Oh, I was asshole does not start with that. That's all I could think of.
No, that's what it is. They run on those platforms. They get those those 3 or 4 things that people hear, that one thing that they want to hear, and they could agree with the opponent in 99 other things, but they're stuck on that one thing, so that's what they're going to do. Sally Yates was poised. She was smart. She stayed very calm and collected, and she bitch slapped them without even having to raise her voice.
She not only bitch slapped without raising her voice, it was like it was sitting on the top of her head. I don't think she knew. Maybe she did know ahead of time that they were going to come at her after the Muslim ban, or it's not the Muslim ban. What is it? The travel ban or
the travel
whatever.
ban.
Maybe she had an idea ahead of time that they were coming.
Probably did. Yeah.
But to just be able to smack them down without batting an eyelash, with the poise and grace and intelligence, not raising her voice, nothing.
If you didn't know who Sally Yates was, after that investigation and after that appearance before the Senate the Senate House or Senate Committee, Intelligence Committee, there, you knew who she was after that.
Oxymoron. Ted
there
Cruz
was
is on the Senate Intelligence Committee.
Well, I'm not sure if it was the Senate Intelligence
It
Committee,
doesn't
but
matter.
it was
Ted Cruz on an intelligence committee.
If that's what it is, that's really funny.
I mean, a lot of people got a crush on Sally Yates, and hopefully she'll pursue a political office.
I really hope she runs.
I think the nation as a whole, I mean, like even Ana Navarro, she was like, I think I'm in love. I mean, everybody was just blown away by this woman. I mean, really. We raise a beer to her, we toast to her. Maybe 2 beers.
Well, with all of this alcohol that we're drinking tonight, we probably should be eating something. And the best way, the best thing to eat is from Blue Apron. Blue Apron does it all. It is from 2 people to 6 people. It is a great way of providing for your family and for your loved ones. Blue Apron is a fresh ingredient, pre-measured system to help chefs at all levels create great meals like roasted pork and with a mustard pan sauce, or red cabbage apple pecan slaw. They try to do delicious things. Yeah, Blue Apron is wonderful. And if you want to take a try of it, all you have to do is go to podblesskentucky.com and click on the link, and you'll get your first $30 off your free trial or your first trial, and you'll not turn back. I mean, it's so good.
I just did a very, very quick research, and this is on the U.S. Senate site, just FYI, just so we can clarify, because we didn't know what the hell we were talking about. But
like I said, don't believe us on everything we say.
Ted Cruz sits on a lot of subcommittees. I mean, a lot. But the one I'm looking at specifically is the Committee on the Judiciary. He is on the subcommittee for Oversight, Agency Action, Federal Rights, Federal Courts, and he's the chairman of that. But he also sits on the subcommittee of the Constitution. Scary thought. And the subcommittee of Immigration and National Interest. So
he's actually supposed to know those laws backwards and forwards.
Well, you know what it comes down to? I really wonder if any of them know
shit.
Yes, I really do, because it's complicated. It's all really complicated. I mean, and to some extent, this is the only.
Well, I know that he went to law school with John Roberts, Supreme Court Justice John Roberts. Actually recommended him for the Supreme Court.
Well, I mean, he
Which
should
that
know.
backfired on him.
I was like, does he regret that now?
Well, he should know more than the average person, obviously. Being an attorney, he should know more. But I honestly think that, they get there and they don't know what to expect and they don't know what to do. And so to some extent, they're learning as they go too. But you sure as hell think if they were interviewing someone, or questioning someone, I guess, really, before, some type of committee, that I wouldn't want to make an ass of myself. Yeah, the minute I opened my mouth, because I didn't bother to read the second line of the paragraph.
It's called education. And speaking of education.
Speaking of shitty education. So I want to get this whole thing out. Most importantly tonight, we are going to raise our beers, or 2 or 3 or 4 beers, to the students of Bethune-Cookman University. If you don't know, it's a historically underrepresented African American university. And this goes out to, because every underrepresented minority out there, we cried. We
Dr.
watched
Jackson,
this clip.
Board of Trustees, thank you so very, very much for this great honor and privilege. I am honored to become a Wildcat.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't like that idea. Didn't like that she was actually getting an honorary degree.
To be with you as we celebrate the Bethune-Cookman University class of 2017.
That's Betsy DeVos.
Yeah.
It is Betsy DeVos. The president of the university. Oh, right here. Hold on.
Behavior continues. Your degrees will be mailed to you.
So,
okay. I mean, he just absolutely.
So you have a historically black college, and you have this woman, Betsy DeVos, whom I have dealt with the DeVos family since a child. I've never liked him. I'm not going to like him. But she has made some very
ridiculous
I'm going to say ridiculous remarks. Like segregation is actually good, and she really is who brought down the downfall of
that it was
the Detroit.
The true meaning of choice.
Right.
Segregated schools were the true meaning of choice.
So she basically
there was no choice
brought
there.
down the Detroit public schools. I mean, like, that's her fault. She was a huge lobbyist. She made sure that school of choice and voucher systems in Michigan went through. I don't even actually know if the voucher systems went through. Well, we'll have to look that up. But I do know that she was a huge proponent of school of choice. And when you have these poor communities, specifically in Detroit, it automatically segregated them, because suddenly you don't have kids who can go to the school of choice. They have to go to the school closest to them because their parents cannot get them where they need to be.
And she was never a proponent of public education.
Well, now I know her children never stepped foot in a public school. Did she? I
No.
don't believe
No.
she did.
No,
she doesn't even know how a public school operates.
She has gone to a private school they don't have records on her kindergarten, but from first grade through university level, she attended private schools.
And she is very wealthy.
Oh.
Very, very wealthy. And
She
has
married
given-
into the
She married
family
in
of
DeVos.
the Amway.
Amway
yeah,
scheme.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
She
so
is
her father-in-law, I believe, is the beginning of
the
Amway.
yeah.
Might have been the
Amway
the
Corporation.
next one. They own the DeVos Center. They own hotels.
They're very influential in Grand Rapids on the western side of the state.
And she also gave an extremely large amount of money to the Trump campaign.
Yes.
So essentially, it could be looked at as pay for play.
And possibly as did her brother. I'm not...
Right.
Eric Prince. Do you recognize that name?
He
Kinda,
is.
yeah.
Yeah. He was the company Blackwater during the Bush
I wish
administration.
we had a video of Dana's face right now. She had never connected that.
Yeah, he
I
owned,
did not.
He owned the company called Blackwater during the Bush administration that was doing some pretty
Do you
underhanded
see how bright
things.
that light bulb is
and,
above her head?
Pretty underhanded things
Wow.
as far as security in Iraq.
Yeah.
So
and that's her brother.
they operated a lot of the the prisons in Iraq during
There
our
were
occupation there.
A lot of questionable deaths, if I
which made a
remember correctly.
lot of money.
Yes.
So
So now that you know who Betsy DeVos is,
Well, we should say during that clip, when everyone is booing, that is largely the audience that is booing.
It is.
The students, or the graduates, because that's what they
the
were.
senior students.
The senior students stood up and turned their backs to her,
Yes.
which is protest and which is their God-given right as an
Right.
American citizen, and which was, I thought, a very appropriate response to a woman who has done nothing but shit all over them.
She has shit all over the African American community.
Absolutely.
Now-
I mean, like, big balls of
the
it.
explanation from the president of the university was that these students will go out into the world and they will meet all different types of people, and people that are somewhat working for them and working against them. And they should have that her getting that honorary degree and actually speaking at the commencement was a symbol of that they will overcome these obstacles.
Now, wait a second. I mean,
And that was his.
I
That was
can't
his.
swallow that.
It's the reason I have a problem with that is especially minority communities getting to go to college and getting through 4 years of college is a huge accomplishment. It's like a huge accomplishment for anybody, especially, I mean.
But when you have so many forces pounding you
Exactly.
down.
These people have worked their asses off.
They have.
You
And
know?
they
and
should be proud of what they have accomplished, and to have this woman who has, as you say, shit all over them.
All over the public education system.
And the public education system, which I would love to actually see the statistics for those kids. Because if I had to take a guess, I would say 99% of them had to get through public school.
Well, and I would love to know, too, out of the college class that's there, the percentage of them that is the first person from their family that graduated from college.
Oh, that would be a great statistic, too, yeah.
Because, you know, I mean, we just attended a university graduation, and one of the things the president of the university said was, you know, that is a gateway for a family. The first person to graduate from a college is the next, their children are more likely to graduate. And it creates an open and free thinking, you know, urge for education, you know? And, you know, even regardless, it doesn't matter. This person is just not who they wanted representing them. Free speech or not. And I know that that's another big issue with universities
and
right
the
now.
only thing I can agree with on that president saying that, yes, they are absolutely going to meet more people like her. But you can also not tell me that since these kids were children, and they're not kids, they're adults.
That's right.
But since these adults were children, young children, you cannot tell me that they have not been facing systemic racism.
Well, the other thing, too, is that this is supposed to be an exciting occasion. This
Right.
is supposed to
it's
celebrate.
It's
Not about her
Betsy DeVos.
and
It's
the
about
crap that they're going to
graduates.
face tomorrow when they walk out the door with that piece of paper in their hand and that they faced every single day of their lives. This is a moment for them to celebrate, for them and their families, and to take that from them by putting her there and say, oh, by the way, here's another reason, you know, it's going to suck.
Here's another hurdle.
Yeah, it's basically a slap in the face. And it's just, I thought that, yeah, I don't know. It frustrates the hell out of me that I felt so bad for them, that they're looking forward to that, and their moms and their dads, and just having a college graduate, you know, last week myself, being there, you know, I cried to the damn graduation. And all I could think of is all they got to do is turn around and put their back to a stage. Because a woman that doesn't represent them and doesn't represent how they feel, how they think, you know, and what they are hoping, because it's supposed to be about hope, right? It's supposed to be about the exciting things that are coming to you, not what's going to slap you in the face the moment you walk out the door.
Right.
Right. And the only reason I put this in with good news is because I mean, I cannot even begin to say how proud I am of those kids for standing up.
Good for them.
Let's applaud them for what they've done. I mean, let's applaud them. I mean, they've worked hard. They deserve. And this goes out to all graduates right now. Congratulations on accomplishing your degrees or your high school education, your diplomas, and it's a good time. So if you know a graduate, give them a pat on the back. Say, hey, you did a good job.
And these kids from Bethune Cookman, you know, if you have any contact with them, tell them, you know, shout out. We're proud.
Yep. All right, so there's been other good news. We talked about
I do have more
our
good
state
news.
senator Reggie Thomas, who is thinking about running for the open, well, not the open position, because we hope
know,
that it
right?
would become an
Dana's
open
like got her
position.
fingers crossed.
That our representative to the U.S. Congress, Andy Barr.
Barr needs to go.
But he's not the only one who has shown interest into this position.
You are correct. He's actually the second Democrat who has announced that they want to run. Marie, well, she's toying with the idea of running.
She hasn't publicly came out.
She has not
because
publicly
she
come
can't.
out. But she has admitted that she is toying with it. She is the U.S. Marine Lieutenant Colonel Amy McGrath. She is retiring very soon. I don't have the statistic.
Yeah,
the
she couldn't
statement
speak
on that.
publicly on this because she is an active officer in the military, and
until June 1st, and then after that,
then she can declare her
oh shoot,
her
when is our
intentions.
meeting? Darn, our meeting is the 28th. No wonder.
Yeah,
That's too bad. So, anyways, once she retires, she will be able to make her official declaration. But this is also according to the Democratic Party Chair Saini Overly and Ben Chandler, But we're all hoping that
They do better than what's happened in
you
the
know,
past.
I would take either Reggie Thomas or her.
Amy McGrath, if you'd like to contact us, here's our email address. Tom,
Yeah.
what's our email address?
If you'd like to contact us, you can contact us at Pod Bless Kentucky, or you can go on Facebook. Probably the best way to contact us through Facebook, and it is look up Pod Bless Kentucky, and we'd be more than glad to.
We would love to get her
put a
in here
comment
and
on our Facebook page. If you haven't gotten a chance to check out our Facebook page, it is Pod Bless Kentucky, and that's where we'll have previous shows as well as different information going on that might be coming up on the show. So if you get a chance, we also have a website, podblesskentucky.com, where you can check out, like I said, previous shows and get that $30 off that first trial of a Blue Apron. So
we do have a few calendar events besides the meeting May 28th.
The May 28th meeting?
I do want to announce that we will have Monday nights for rights.
Okay.
We're still doing that every Monday night. This week we are at West 6th Brewing from 6 to 9. Next week we will actually be at Mellow Mushroom downtown.
Oh, wow. I love me some, food.
We get to eat rather than drink dinner.
Food
Yay!
and resistance. Sounds amazing.
What's wrong with drinking dinner?
Well, you know my liver needs a break.
I think it's the only way I'm going to get through this administration.
If you haven't been out for Monday Nights for Rights, I really, recommend that you come out. I mean, come out, bring your friends. It's a great time to talk to different people. You can sit down and write some postcards.
If you're not familiar with ResistBot, we'll show you how to use that.
Yep.
I set a couple people up this last week even on ResistBot.
It's a great opportunity to get out and connect with people on a very informal level, and to basically, sometimes you feel like every day is a problem and every day there's something else you're hearing in the news. It's a nice couple of hours to have a beer, talk with like-minded people, and to, get some of your frustrations out in writing.
Yeah.
Personally, I like just being able to sit around with the beer and just talk with people.
Right.
I mean,
there was one time I didn't fill out my postcards until about 15 minutes before I was time to walk out the door. But, yes. I mean, it's really nice. I like the fact that the location changes, too, because you get to see different parts of the city. I'm really looking forward to Mellow Mushroom because, it's a
food instead of
food
beer.
Instead of, like I said,
like, what do you got against beer?
I'm going to be cirrhotic. I don't like beer, actually. Fortunately, most of the places I have either found a beer that I can tolerate or they have a cider that's pretty good.
And,
so,
I mean, I have to give a shout out to some of the breweries that the Monday Night for Rights have been at.
We crash.
We crash them off often. Pivot Brewing, the Rock House Brewing Company.
Rock House has actually been, Rock House and Blue Stallion both have been really good to us in that we just kind of come in and be like, hey, here we are.
Yeah, and we brought 20 of our friends.
Yeah. We've also had it at Wessex. We had Ethereal.
We've had it at Ethereal a couple of times. I like Ethereal, too.
Yeah.
Tammy is the owner at Ethereal, and she doesn't mind that we just come in and say, hey, here we are.
Here we are. A big shout out to those breweries who have assisted us in this grand event that we do, our Monday Night for Rights.
Did we miss any breweries?
No, we did it at Crank and Boom once.
Oh, yeah.
Too.
Yes, we did do it at Crank and Boom.
So that was a little bit of
cream.
eating. And ice cream is always good.
Ice cream. What? That was like a mudslide. I don't know why you guys don't drink.
So once again, on Monday night, this Monday night, we are at West 6 Brewing.
West 6.
And then on the following week, which is May 21st, we will be at Mellow Mushroom on Upper Street. And
Dana, you know why we have to do Mellow Mushroom that Monday night?
Not that I'm...
Because it's Brew Week, it's Craft Brew Week,
and
we knew we wouldn't be able to
get
get
in
anywhere.
I was going to make a joke about the fact, and on Tuesday we'll be looking for A meetings.
No, that's what this whole group is going to become once we get Trump out and all is well and good with the world again. We're gonna
Okay,
be
so is anything else happening coming up?
No.
Not really.
Not really.
Okay, so definitely keep track on Facebook, and if anything pops up, we will let you know. We'll also
if you're aware of any events too, let us know. Go
Yes,
ahead,
please.
let us know on Facebook. We also have ends at a few organizations. Obviously, we can get your information passed on to them too.
Right. So if anybody from Our Revolution, Indivisible, any of those, please pass those things on to us.
All right, so this week there has been all kinds of fun on the late night shows with everything going on. And probably the first one to start out with is Stephen Colbert.
No idea. Okay, now, firing Jim Comey, head of the FBI, really feels like authoritarianism 101. Which, by the way, a very difficult class. The professor is a total Nazi. Yeah, so strict. So strict.
So not only did Stephen Colbert get a hold of him, then Sean Spicer, Melissa McCarthy, her great impression, they happened to roast him on Saturday Night Live. So this is
were
Sean
you
Spicer.
surprised that he fired Comey before he fired you?
Oh, God.
As she wields a column into this press corps.
Does that answer your question? I honestly hope to God it killed her.
Sean, just be straight with us for once. What's really going on?
I am being straight with you. I'm telling you exactly what President Trump told me.
But what if he's lying to you?
But he wouldn't do that. He's my friend.
If he's your friend, why does he make you come out here and humiliate yourself every day?
He doesn't make me. I like it. I get off on it.
Well, if he's your friend, why is everyone saying he's about to fire you and replace you with Sarah?
Oh, bless your heart. This is the first I'm hearing of that.
Get out. I gotta find Trump. I'm going to New York. The press interview is over.
And with that, she ends up driving throughout New York City, going to Trump Tower, only to find that Trump isn't there. I'm sure Melania was there, but Trump wasn't there. So she had to go down, or actually Sean Spicer had to go down to a resort club, a golf club down in New Jersey, where he is able to catch up with Donald Trump. And so that was it's been a great week. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please listen to us next week. We'll be talking about what the things that are going on. Like I said before, we are not experts, but we do have a good time. So thank you. I'd like to finish the day off, or our show off, with Carla Gover, a friend of ours, who has written a new song. It's called A Hole Where Your Soul supposed to be. So she does a great job. See you next week.